How's it going, everybody? Favorite time of the week. We got a Q&A video for y'all. We're going to put 15 minutes on the clock. And if you guys haven't been here for these before, easy way to do it. If you guys want your questions answered two ways, leave a comment in the comments down below. If you see one you like, give it a like. Those will bump up higher. If they're a conversation piece, something that we can talk about, I'll talk about them. Or if you'd like to skip the queue, come over to the stream, twitch.tv/Lawler. We do these pretty much every stream, except for Tuesday and Sundays. But the videos are usually done on like Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how busy I am. So easy way to do it. With that said, let's jump into it. What do we got? First one, pretty sure you've talked about this already, but how would you, or are you treating RLCS LAN events as a viewer, fan, and enjoyer? Like, how does your preparation for traveling look like? I'll attend my first ever LAN with Rotterdam, and I feel a bit lost and worried about forgetting things. I'm also not quite sure how you leave airports. And I mean, do you have to book a bus, or I think your summary would help a lot. Usually when I travel, and luckily I've been doing this for a long time. I've been going to LANs for a while. This is going to be my 7th year of doing it. Kind of crazy to think about, but usually I have a routine that I set to make sure I don't forget anything. So if you are one of those people that is forgetful, highly recommend making a list and checking it twice to find out if you're naughty or nice. But having a list of like all the things you need. I'm going for X amount of days. I am going to need this amount of clothes. I'm going to need this amount of this. I need backup clothes just in case something happens. Like all those types of things, right? I also make sure to have a backpack or something on me, because if I like my contacts, like I need contact solution and stuff, things that like if my luggage gets lost, what things do I need to have? Glasses, contact solution and stuff, charger for my phone, things of that nature, my passport, stuff that I need to have on my person that I absolutely must have. So I do that in one bag that I bring with me at all times. And then I have another bag with my clothes and whatever stuff that if gets lost, yeah, it sucks, but that's what travel insurance is for. The next thing, if you're going international, couple things that are different: plugs, chargers, all that kind of stuff, certain customs. I usually recommend Googling and looking up things that are normally not accepted. Like they usually have YouTube videos of people being like, hey, these are things that Americans do that we don't really recommend doing here. Those types of videos are really, really good. Also for travel, it's always good to plan ahead of time, as well as like get like your, like I'm a planner. I like knowing things ahead of time. So like I like to have my flights and stuff booked well in advance. I like to have my travel and itinerary figured out, and like I usually keep things pretty open-ended. But so your first question, for example, is like, how do I treat the RLCS LANs? I treat RLCS LAN events like a vacation. Like if I'm a person attending, I personally don't treat them like a vacation. I work my butt off when I go to LANs. I'm doing like 4 jobs at once when I go to LANs, but obviously my situation is different. But if I was to go to like a football game or a live viewing experience of a thing, I treat it like a vacation. That is just one portion of my trip. So if I am going to Rotterdam, I'm going with the intent to say RLCS is one thing that's going on, and I'm also doing these other things, and I plan my trip around that. Whether I arrive a little bit early or go a little bit later, it is one portion. I want to see the sights. I want to see things in the area. I'm going to make it worth it if I'm going there. So that kind of stuff I think is really cool. So go as a viewer, as a fan for the event, but make sure you check out the other things. Like I mentioned, V1 is doing their watch party. Go to that. Leave your schedule open a little bit, because you never know what stuff may happen. Maybe you make some friends and you want to go to like a pub and hang out or do something. Again, if your schedule is booked so tight, there's no freedom to go and have a good time. So doing that stuff, being open-minded, being willing to like fully immerse yourself in the experience. Like don't be nervous about cheering or looking weird or whatever. Like have fun. Have fun, enjoy it, okay? The next part you say is, what's my preparation for traveling? I talked about it. Looking up things in the area, making sure that I'm aware of what's going on, having a backup plan, things like that. These are going to be things that you will have to think of on your feet sometimes, just because stuff does happen. Where are you flying to? Transportation to Rotterdam. Like if I fly into Amsterdam airport, then I'm probably going to take a train to Rotterdam. It's like an hour train ride, give or take, like 52 minutes or something like that. Knowing where the train station is, how much the ticket costs, like what do I need to do that? Calling my bank ahead of time if I'm traveling internationally to let them know, like, I'm going to be in a different country during this time. Please don't lock my card. Thank you. Bringing international chargers, because charging ports are different. A lot of places nowadays do have just USB ports that you can plug it into. But again, if you need like a 12 volt, converter and stuff, make sure you bring that. Bring these. They're your best friends. They also have ones that are like all in one that have like every type possible. So there's different ones that exist. It is always better to over prepare than under prepare. So The other thing is, if it is your first one, it is going to be a little bit different. Don't worry about it. That is normal. Go and have a good time, though. If you're attending, whether you're local or international, that is a different beast. Overall, there is going to have to be a little bit of spur of the moment type stuff and being able to think on your toes. And if you've ever traveled anywhere else, it's a good time. Yeah, the train station is right below the airport. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be super easy to get to places. People there almost all speak English. Every time I've been over there, they've always been like, oh, you're American? You speak English? I want to practice. So, and people are pretty friendly. 90% of the population speaks English. Usually pretty good. Don't be afraid to, you know, ask and be generous, be nice. Like, it's not that hard. So, it's a good time. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps. Or stop by the stream. Come by the stream. Wendy, one of my moderators, is from Netherlands. I'm sure she can answer any questions you have. I will also, when I'm streaming, try to answer some of those as well. Next question. This one's spicy for a YouTube title, so we'll do it. What's my hot take for the major? Who could seriously pop off? Who do I think is the most overrated team in the world currently? Are Quadrant and Liquid the most overrated teams in the world? So that's a tough question in particular, right? Because when you talk about world rankings, how do we quantify international when we haven't seen them play, right? I have not seen these teams play against each other internationally. If I have to go based upon evidence, Team Liquid is in a really interesting position right now for two things. Number one, Team Liquid has shown the ability to pop off, peak, constant challenges, all the crazy stuff they can do, and win an entire regional, which we knew they were capable of. We've also seen them struggle with mentality. People kind of figure out their play style and make them pretty one-dimensional, right? Like, Team Liquid would go up in their matches and 3-0 all their competition in one part in the Swiss. And the teams they lost to, they would go to like 5 against in games that they were pretty much dominating. They were dominating on offense. Then they would make double commit, stupid challenges. They would whiff the ball, just really weird stuff. And then there would be no one on defense and it'd be a wide open net. So like Liquid can be here and there. The nice thing for them and something that's in their favor is this isn't their first event. They also played in London. No, they played in the Spring Major in London. Yeah, it was the Spring Major. So like, it's not like this is their first time ever competing with a team internationally. Nerves should be a little bit more settled. Boot camps and stuff are going to help. Less travel time. A lot of benefits. So I wouldn't say that they're overrated. I would say that them being tied for second is just a surprise. And I think there's been some like mental stuff going on. The fact that BDS is in 8th right now, like there's a lot of opportunity for any of these teams to steal. I think K-Corp is exactly where they should be. They look incredible. As for Quadrant, I want to put it out there. I think Quadrant is a bit overrated right now. I think Quadrant is a team that I think has a ton of potential, but I don't think they've been challenged in the way that they could be. I don't know. EU's been really weird to watch this season. I see a lot of results in EU where I'm just like, you guys talk about depth and stuff, but what I'm seeing with my own two eyes is like, this is just inconsistency. Like, these results should not be happening. Like, you have Quadrant, a team that I think is really, really good, not qualifying for top 8. They take second to K-Corp, and they beat Vitality's in the top 4, who played EG, who looked abysmal. And it's like, you're making the grand finals, and like, you played Tundra and Vitality, and Vitality took you to 7. I think Vitality plays up their competition pretty well. So, but like, it's so hard for me to give a valid response when I see the contrast of the results. Like, I don't know. It's all over the place. I honestly don't know. So I do think Quadrant might, against the LAN team, I think their first match is actually up against V1. That one could be interesting. I think V1 is going to make Quadrant better prepared for the rest of the tournament. That's a really tough first match. I think Chicago said it on first touch. He's like, yeah, V1 should probably win in 4-1, probably. Quadrant is also a team that I have always had concerns about because their pop-off is incredible, but they also play as an emotional team. If things aren't going well, it feels like things start to go downhill. I look at that Misfits roster with Cash. I've seen EXO have same kind of complications with that same team. Like, them together has been really great. And I've been loving watching that team. Relating Wave has stepped up, but definitely some concerns potentially. So, yeah, maybe Quadrant is a bit overrated. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see on what that match is. I think that match, that 3-4, is probably one of the better ones. So, that should be a lot of fun. Good question, though, because those are kind of the harder ones to answer. But as of right now, like, I'm totally okay with being proven wrong as well. I don't know what's going to happen at International LAN. Question. Do you know how pro players enter Flowstate, the zone? It's always intrigued me since at its peak of performance and was hoping you'd have some ideas and tips. Everybody enters Flowstate in a different way. And there is people that are better at recreating those parameters or those circumstances that are needed to enter flow state. This is what, if you don't know what flow state is, it's kind of like when people go on fire when they play, or like someone's got the hot hand, like you're watching an NBA game and this dude just does not miss. It is kind of a perfect balance of stakes and expectation, as well as pressure, and those two things mold to where like something triggers in your brain and it becomes a time moves a little bit slower. I can process things a little bit faster. I have a deeper understanding. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those days in Rocket League where it's like, I just don't miss. Every touch is perfect. I'm reading the game significantly faster. All of those things. If you've ever watched NBA Jam, like Hobby's talking about, NBA Jam has the thing where he's on fire. He scores 3 things in a row, and now he's on fire. He's in flow. That is what it stems from. So those types of things, there are certain things that force it to happen, but primarily it is most circumstances you under a lot of pressure. You are being asked to perform at a very high level. There are certain things and certain like environmental things that cause it to trigger. Some people do it with certain routines, mindsets that you put yourself into, that can help. My recommendation is there's a lot of really cool like documentary videos on flow state. Recommend go watch those. But it is a trial and error thing. And then you also have to be able to recognize when you are in flow state, because a lot of people, it kind of just becomes like when you're in flow state, you don't even recognize it. You're just vibing, then you get out of it and you're like, oh, that's a thing that's happening. It's crazy stuff. So I've noticed and heard in conversation a bit, but certain teams don't perform as well in certain formats. Why do you think that is? Mentality about the format or how many lives they have? Yeah, I think certain teams react to different circumstances in unique ways, right? Like knowing that mentally, like I think some teams should be able to recognize that, like in Swiss, I have 3 lives. I can essentially screw up 3 times and I still have to beat the competition in front of me. People that wait way too much into thinking about seeding and stuff. It's like, oh, our strength of schedule is unfair. At the end of the day, man, you got to win your matches. Like, it doesn't matter who's in front of us. We have to still win. Like, that's the mentality you need to have. Some people like double elimination, where it's like, you know what? I have propped this up to thinking, you know what? If I mess up here, I still have a second life. No big deal. It's a new day. And that's the kind of same thing. Like, I obviously am the most familiar with V1, so I can reference them the best. But, like, V1 has gone to the 5th and final round every single time during fall. And it's painful. And, like, the results are not that great. Fall Open, 3-2, and struggling against teams they probably should have bopped, right? They make top 8. They play against a really good Genji who goes on to second place. Second one, same thing. 3-2, playing some pretty tough competition between G2, you know, Optic, here and there. We haven't seen much out of Optic. I would say the split. Complexity is a good team. Beat Furia, beat Energy, beat Genji, right? 20 demos. And then just one of the best series we've seen in a while. Really good series between 2 teams that were just playing great. So you can struggle on other days, but that ability to have that mental reset and get it to the point to be where they are is great. And then you see the Invitational, same thing. They lost to one of the worst seeds. They played another team that they should have easily handled, and it was not pretty. They lose to Furia, they beat Dig, they beat Optic, right? Like, it's still 3-2. As a team that has shown potential to be a regional winner, why are we struggling against these teams? And it goes to mentality, right? You're talking about the mentality of players and the pressure that is on them. And some people handle those pressures or those circumstances differently. So if you're a team that has everything on the line, I mean, Energy was a prime example in that same event. You look at Energy and it's like, you guys are dropping to teams like PK. PK has no expectations on them. If they make top 8, awesome. It just makes better circumstances for them in the future. Energy is 3 of the most notable players in the history of Rocket League, all competing with the expectation that you guys are not the best anymore. Why? What's going on? What's the circumstance? That pressure causes mistakes, causes issues. So those types of things are, I think, why it happens more than anything. So it's really unfortunate and it stinks to see, but that pressure and paired with different formats can definitely make a difference. And the last question I have for you guys came from Annie. He said, or she or he, what are your thoughts on KBM users and tips for anyone trying to switch to controller? My first and foremost thing is, why are you trying to switch to controller? How many hours in are you? All that kind of stuff. A lot of people feel like they have to switch to controller because there is an inherent benefit of having an analog and being able to be a bit more precise with their micro adjustments with turning and flips and all that kind of stuff. but the skill ceiling, although on KBM, is better. Like your inputs are immediate, so like half flips and certain things like that are better, but you do lose a little bit of the finesse and control. Some of that is just because Rocket League doesn't translate from anything else. It is a muscle memory thing. You just have to put in the time and the hours to help. But my tips, again, make sure you start with the right layout for your controller. If you're going to switch over to the controller, make sure you put your bindings in certain ways so your hands are more available. Like I play default, so everything, boost, ball cam, drifting, jumping, everything is on one hand. Not a good idea. Try to separate that, you know, use your like index finger and put boost over here or something, or air roll over here, or, you know, mix it up so you're not trying to do everything here with your swollen knuckle. Things like that will definitely help you and give you a little bit more freedom, but you need to put in those practice. Again, it's hours played. It really is. You got to just turn it into muscle memory. And for a lot of people, it's a lot of hours. We've seen players have the Rizzo. Rizzo was a keyboard and mouse player who took what made sense in keyboard and mouse and applied it to controller. Those that don't know, when Rizzo wants to accelerate, he holds up on his left analog stick, which also changes his pitch and his yaw of his. It's bad. Like when he's on the backboard, it's not a good idea. It's not, but he made it work for him. It made sense to him logically, and that's what he stuck with. So memory also does that. Memory tried to switch away from it, and he played worse for like a split, and then he went back to it, and now he's better again. So again, I don't think there is any specific way. It's just what works best for you and putting the time and the hours in. There is obviously some recommendations like switching away the buttons and stuff, but overall, like you got to put the practice in. You got to build that muscle memory, which takes time. Good stuff all around. Also, I saw Stinky and Shady was asking, and I'll try to get this. He says, I remember you talking about getting into sports betting for Rocket League. I don't know if you've checked out this website. They do bets about goal saves demos. I could see you doing a weekly video about that. The issue with betting is right now, I think it's still against terms of service from Psyonix. Like Psyonix doesn't like it, but it is something that I definitely like kind of lurk and like research just for when the time it does come. So there's certain things like certain trade sites and all that kind of stuff that are super against terms of service and everything else too. I don't know the legality about betting on it, even though you're allowed to do it. I don't know if like because of the position I'm in and what I do, if I'm allowed to. So it's kind of like this weird balance. So either way, that's what I've got. I appreciate you all taking the time to tune in and watch and ask questions. If you guys have more, let me know in the comments down below. We do this every week as long as you keep the questions coming. So that is going to do it. Appreciate you all taking the time to tune in, watch, and drop some comments. Again, every Sunday we do these, or stop by the stream, twitch.tv/Lawler. We answer questions all day, every stream. So that does it for me. Like, subscribe, notifications. You guys know how it goes. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.